I want to welcome everyone to our monthly bite-sized learning webinar series that we have. Again, if you would like to, you can put your name in the chat and tell us who you are and where you're from, and what are you planning on getting from the webinar? What would you like to get from the webinar, or why did you decide to attend? So my name is Dr. Rhonda Blackburn. I am the CIO of the Texas Digital Learning Association on the board. I'm also the co-chair of professional development, and I absolutely love doing these webinars because I love to learn, and I learn something every single time. So I'm so excited to get started with this one. My co-chair is Dr. Kelly Irwin. She is actually the president-elect, so we'll see how long she decides to stay my co-chair. But she is not able to join us. She may try to jump in a little later, but I wanted to give her a shout out. This is our Texas Bite-Sized Learning webinars. If you got this from an email that maybe Lisa sent you and wondering how do you get to the rest of these webinars, if you go to TxDLA.org and click on Learn up here, you'll get to our Bite-Sized Learning. But today we are, I put the 8th, it is actually the 9th, just in case y'all don't know. But we're going to talk about energizing engagement in the digital world. But next month, make sure you come back and join us again on August 13th. It's Look Up and Talk, Curiosity and Conversation in the Classroom. So that should be lots of fun as well. I wanted to make sure that everyone knew that on October 15th through the 17th, we're going to be in South Padre Island for our fall leadership workshop. We would love for y'all to join us. It's a nice, intimate gathering of leaders within the association, or some people that want to maybe step up and do more stuff with the organization. This is a great place to come and learn more about it and get to know the different leaders within the organization. Also want to make sure you have on your calendar March 23rd through the 26th in Galveston, and also virtually April 14th through the 15th is our 2026 conference, Riding the Wave of Innovations. You're going to start seeing more about this from the association. And call for proposals will probably come out really soon. So think about ways to share your knowledge with everyone. This is a Zoom meeting. So we are recording. We also have transcripts on. We can chat in the chat room, as hopefully y'all are doing. And then you can open your mic. So try to keep it muted unless you do want to talk, but I know Shanita would love to hear from you. She has some couple of engaging areas that she wants you to maybe open your mic or share with us. So I want to do that quickly because I want to get to what we're going to do today, which is an energizing engagement in the digital classroom. So I am going to stop sharing and I'm going to turn this over to our presenter, Shanita Jenkins.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rhonda. Thank you to TxDLA for having me today. I am super excited to share with you guys energizing engagement in a digital world. Let me just get a quick sound check. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Great. Thank you all. Can everybody see my presentation I have loaded up?
Yes.
All right, we are good to go. As Rhonda mentioned, my name is Shanita Jenkins. I am a senior program director at Ultimate Medical Academy. And so today we are going to talk about energizing engagement in a digital world, transforming our virtual learning from disconnected to dynamic. I think we all like that word dynamic, right? So, in this session, we're going to go over several different things. We're going to learn key factors influencing the digital engagement in the classroom, talk about some proven strategies to foster meaningful connections. We're going to go over engagement opportunities to boost student participation. And then lastly, transforming that virtual learning environment, literally going from, having disconnected, disengaged students to having a dynamic learning environment. So, before we get into our session, if you guys could tell me what is one word that you would use to describe either your current digital classroom, or if you don't have a digital classroom, when you think of a digital classroom, what's one word that you will use to come to think of that? What comes in mind? And Miss Rhonda's going to help me monitor the chat here. And if you don't mind just kind of calling out a couple of words that may be coming in the chat for me.
We have quiet, interactives, interactive.
Quiet is a good one. I like that one. Not for not for good reason, but I like that you noted quiet because we're going to talk about that a little bit. So yes, when we think of the digital classroom, we absolutely don't necessarily want it to be quiet, right? We want it to be interactive, which I believe that's one of the words that came through. So why engagement matters? Why is it important that our students engage, our learners engage? This may go without saying, but it is essential for student success. Engagement equals connection, participation, motivation. So when students are connected to the content that we are teaching or putting before them, they're able to participate in that. And when they participate, it drives motivation, right? The goal is for them to connect, participate, and then be motivated by what they're learning. Okay. And so that yields some really good benefits for us. Benefits are better learning outcomes, reduced dropout, improved satisfactory. So retention is big whenever we talk about learning and students being able to not just understand the content that's put before them, but being able to retain what they are learning to make that applicable in that real world environment. Um, I don't think as educators, anyone wants to see a student not succeed and not, graduate or obtain their educational goals. So being able to help reduce that dropout rate is critical, and then improve satisfactory. We all want our students to be satisfied with their learning environment, with the content that they are learning in their course room. So definitely, really good benefits in terms of, how engagement matters in a digital world. Engagement is also a predictor of success, particularly in online education. We know that when students are engaged, they're more likely to be successful because they are engaged, because they are invested. So these different things really kind of tell a story to say why engagement matters in a digital world. So, to the educators that we may have in the audience, or if you are familiar, what has been your biggest challenge with online student engagement? Either from a student perspective, maybe you were a student, you were an online student, or from a faculty perspective, or from an administrator perspective. What would you say has been your biggest challenge with online student engagement?
One says not participating after outreach. Someone actually said with the previous question you had was detached, but I think that could also be here too. Um,
Absolutely.
Lack of
Absolutely.
participation, having engaged conversation, invisibility, either not participating or not engaging,
Mm-hmm.
participation, especially discussion.
All
So
of those things present challenges, and I had some pre-selected words here. Silence, somebody said quiet earlier, right? Distraction, fatigue, isolation. I don't think, we think about as online, educators and having students in that space, they may feel all alone, they may literally be all alone. And so we want to think about some of those challenges so that we can identify potential solutions. And not only that, but be proactive in our approach as we are, teaching students in this online space. So there's some several key factors that influence digital engagement. When we think about the digital world that we live in, some of the key factors specifically as it relates to online learning, no brainer, access and technology, right? In this digital age, access and technology is essential. When we think about students or learners, their access, do they have internet, reliable internet, their technology, the devices that they use. This is all outside of, brick and mortar classrooms, right? So they're not going into a location utilizing, Wi-Fi and things of that nature. This is all on their own. So we have to consider some of those things. Instructor presence and responsiveness. This is really, really big. I believe I kind of heard that in some of the questions in the previous slide. When students feel as if, their instructor isn't present, they're not responding, or they ask questions and those questions go unanswered. And so that is a key factor that influences digital engagement. I often say students will kind of reciprocate our energy, right? So if instructors are engaged, they are, interacting with students in the course room, more times than not, students will kind of reciprocate that in terms of responsiveness. It's really good to set the tone to have students understand or have your learners understand that, there's a timeliness, there's an expectation. Course design and interactivity, the user friendliness of the course layout, the platform. Are students easily able to go in and follow where things are in the course? Are they able to find assistance when they need it? Do they know where to go for certain things? So, absolutely, course design is a key factor in that. And then that interactivity piece, right? Us in this digital environment, we have to identify those resources and tools that are going to be key players in that interactiveness, right? How are students going to interact with this learning platform? Self motivation and regulation, keeping our students motivated, I say, is often half the battle. If they are motivated, that is a great starting point because we know actions after that point will kind of lend to itself for them to engage with the content and really be successful in that course. And then that self-regulation piece just really speaks of, when students are able to kind of self-reflect and identify, okay, am I struggling in some areas? Do I need some additional assistance? And being able to kind of reach out and obtain the necessary assistance and guidance that they may need. Okay. So going a little bit deeper into those technology considerations. So we have equity in access. I think this is a really big one because all internet connections are not the same. It's unfortunate. But I think in this digital world, that really is something that we need to speak to is we expect students to be able to thrive in this digital world, but they don't have the appropriate vehicle to allow them to do that. So we absolutely want to consider, the equity in their access, Wi-Fi connections, internet sources, the specific devices that they're utilizing. I know some educational institutions provide devices for their students, some do not. And so in that instance where, devices are not provided, there has to be conversation or some consideration around, do you have the appropriate tools or technology to be able to, tap into this digital world? And then, our user friendly platforms and tech support availability. I think this is really, really big, particularly because online learning attracts people from all different walks of life, so some are definitely more tech savvy than others, But for some of those folks who are not as tech savvy, do we have the structure and the availability for tech support to come in and assist those students when they may be struggling with certain things? And so instructor presence is key. One of the things that we always talk about, and we had it on that previous slide, isolation. Sometimes our students literally are alone, and so whenever they are enrolled in a online course, instructor presence is essential, right? There has to be frequent communication in order for that student to be aware, to stay abreast of what's going on. And then that personalized feedback. When students are completing work, it's important for them to receive that personalized feedback. That only, not only acknowledges kind of where that student is, but it helps to build rapport with the instructor and the student. And then, just kind of giving them some of the additional tools that are helpful and useful to them to help maybe improve some of their work. Okay. Video instructions and check ins. This is a really good way for instructors to really maintain a presence in the course room. I love the use of videos because not only does it allow for instruct for students to hear their instructor, but they're able to see them. And so it kind of deepens that connection with students. And if there are any questions in the chat, feel free to stop me or you can come off mute. We can definitely kind of have some collaboration. I certainly don't mind.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that Leslie said as you were talking that she found that teams do not do a great job with breakout rooms for those who
Mhm.
are using their phones. So sometimes it makes it difficult.
That is,
Um,
yeah.
and then Carol said students enjoy video and audio encouragement. So being able to have that. So
Absolutely. Great point there. And that's a good acknowledgement for teams and students using their phones. I want to say Zoom kind of has some barriers there as well for students who may be on their phone. So great call out there. So I have a question. What do you currently do to create instructor presence? Those of you who are educators or familiar with it, what's your current process? How do you create instructor presence? Is it through maybe the use of video? Maybe you're doing chat discussions. What are we doing to create instructor presence?
So I'll start while people are typing in. So one of the things I do two things mainly is I do weekly um, video updates on where are we at, what are we doing, what have I seen, and things like that. And I also do synchronous meetings that aren't mandatory, but I record them so people that aren't able to join can join. But to also get that, synchronous FaceTime with me too.
That's good. That's good.
So we have lots of stuff coming through. Um, Rolando said regular announcements and check-ins. Um, Anita said announcements required Zoom check-ins. Whitney said, I started using AI avatars to send video
Ooh,
announcements when I was not able to make a video announcement. They are fun and engaging.
that's good.
Courtney said, I teach online. Videos are key. This includes video, audio feedback, regular communication, announcements, messages, personalized comments based on things students share about themselves, asking about their interests, pets, things like that. Carol said, videos, audios, IM, and communication tab in Brightspace. Tara is weekly video introductions, announcements, feedback, written and audio. And then Aaron said, work to respond to questions and assignments rapidly.
All right. Hey, listen, this group has this stuff down pat. You guys are awesome. So yes, all of those things lend to creating instructor presence in the online classroom. I had an idea of what some of the things that you guys may come up with. So I pre-selected some things for us to talk about a little bit. And you guys are spot on in terms of, what you're doing. Communication, engagement, feedback and support, course design, reflection and improvement. In each of these categories, there are things that we can do to create instructor presence in our course room. So the communication, send a welcome video or message before the course starts. Obviously, this is, trying to set that tone before the start of the course, right? And the goal would be to kind of maintain that level of engagement throughout the course. Um, Host a live Q&A or do office hours. This is always a really good thing, even though you may have an asynchronous learning environment, but I found that giving students those synchronous opportunities to connect with their instructor really make a difference in their level of engagement. So absolutely, office hours, hosting those live sessions. Feedback and support. Give timely, constructive, and personalized feedback. I heard that called out. So, absolutely, students are aware that you're here. You're grading my work. You're looking at what I submitted. You are, giving me pointers on maybe how to improve. So, absolutely that demonstrates attentiveness and care. And then our course design. I definitely feel like in an online environment, particularly where there's a certain number of courses within a curriculum or a program, there should be a level of consistency throughout the course design. And so you want to ensure that there's a designated area in that course that includes a meet your instructor maybe and includes a photo with a bio so that in every course that student can know, okay, I'm going to go here to learn all about my instructor and maybe how to get in contact with my instructor, right? Reflection and improvement. I think this is a really big part of this, and students appreciate being able to provide feedback, right? To be able to take a survey and provide their thoughts on how they feel about the course, how they feel about their instructor. So, all of those things really help to lend to instructor presence. Really good examples on those, guys. Thank you. So let's take a look at some proven strategies to foster connection. So we've kind of talked about engagement and why engagement is important. Let's take a look at some of the strategies that are going to help us foster those connections. Create a community. Um, Oftentimes, students want to feel a sense of belonging, a sense of, hey, I've found my tribe, so to speak, right? And so this is why we say when you have an online learning environment, you want that environment to feel welcoming. You want students to, have that be seen as a place where they can come, be themselves. I often try to say, to my students that, hey, this is a judgment-free zone, right? And so we want to create that sense of community. And this can be done through icebreakers, having them do group work, or in holding those virtual office hours, those live Q&A sessions, but definitely creating that sense of community really lends to engagement. Um, and we need to be human, right? So oftentimes students may feel really intimidated by their instructor. There can be a level of intimidation there. But we want our students to know that we are human. We want to share our stories with them. We want to be approachable. I found that, students appreciate, when we share our struggles with them, when we share, some of those things that we've struggled with that is relatable to them, right? So we want to be human and share our stories with students. and that's going to inspire them. I've heard so many times, how students have been inspired through instructors sharing their stories with them. Encourage peer-to-peer interaction. Students absolutely learn from their instructor, from their the faculty members, but they also learn from each other. So we want to encourage that interaction. We want to encourage that engagement. Leveraging social media in the discussion boards. Obviously, when it comes to leveraging social media, there may be some, compliance things that are associated with that. But if you have the opportunity to do so, um, we are in a digital world, and social media is a big part of that. And so, us being able to somehow leverage that with our students could potentially help to increase engagement. And the discussion boards, this kind of goes hand in hand with that encourage peer-to-peer interaction. Students are excited, particularly when they see their peers responding to their post, right? When they're posting their replies, and it becomes something that's exciting, and they look forward to say, oh, okay, well, I'm going to see, who's going to respond to my post this week, or, what someone's going to say. So they learn from each other in those instances. And then going back to those regular check-ins and feedback loops. In doing all of these things, implementing, these strategies, we want to have regular check-ins with our students. We want to continue to be able to gain feedback from them, let them know how they're performing in the course, and providing that timely feedback to help ensure their success. So, of those things, which method do you guys use the most to help foster those connections? Do you use videos? Do you use chat, discussion boards? What are you doing most to foster those connections?
So I just tapped in. I do all at different times, right? So there's certain reasons to do certain things. And I think that by leveraging it and not doing too much of one thing, because then they start ignoring it, right?
There you go. That's a key.
Leslie said, I have small activities embedded in my course and I take time to provide details and supportive feedback with that.
Good. I want
People
to
are probably
expound.
writing a lot. Oh,
No, no,
Carol.
no, that's fine. Okay, go ahead.
So Carol said all of them students seem to like a variety, which
Mhm.
I think is people are thinking and typing, I think, at the same time.
So while we're thinking, while they're still thinking about that a little bit, I do want to expound on. I believe you and Carol mentioned that it's important to incorporate a variety, right? So yes, we may have our go-to method. We kind of always have our go-to method when our students are really struggling, and we know, okay, this is a surefire way to really drive up engagement. But it's important to kind of have a variety in our arsenal, so that we can employ different things at different times, to really engage and foster those connections with our students. Any other comments before we move forward?
I don't see any.
Okay, good deal. So now we're going to talk about building meaningful interactions, right? So we talked about fostering those connections, but how do we truly drill down and build those meaningful interactions? Well, I think it's important to call out different types of digital learning environments. We have synchronous versus asynchronous, right? So synchronous is obviously you are still in a digital environment, but you are logged in, with your student with that synchronous engagement. So that's the synchronous piece of it. Asynchronous is basically the student is kind of self-paced learning. So they're, the interactions don't happen at the same time, same place, but there is a self-paced learning component to that. So in identifying synchronous versus asynchronous, we have to look at those opportunities that connect in either of those digital worlds, right? Structured group work. This is a really good piece to have students interact with each other, right? To get to know their peers a little bit more. Having that structured group work, to be a part of a team, right? To be a part of an environment that's not just impacted by themselves but a part of a group. This is going to be more reflected on what's going to be expected of them whenever they get out into the real world, being part of a team. Gamification, this is a really big thing in our digital world. So being able to incorporate that into our online classrooms, this could be with badging, leaderboards, having interactive prizes. Um, Regardless if you have adult learners or, you know, younger learners, gamification, I think that's something that everybody can kind of join in on. So definitely utilizing that to build those meaningful interactions. Encouraging student-led discussions. I know oftentimes we typically have, our discussion prompt with several different questions to respond to, but really encouraging student led discussions, giving students an opportunity to have a platform that also leads to meaningful interactions. And then that interactive multimedia content that's built in within the course, being able to kind of leverage some of the technology from a course design perspective, um, also helps to contribute to those meaningful interactions. So, some online engagement opportunities, some of these interactive tools you guys may be familiar with, some of them you may not be familiar with. But I wanted to kind of just share in doing my research some of the things that um, I found to be pretty cool and useful. So, Kahoot, who here has heard of Kahoot, or maybe you've used Kahoot? So Kahoot is a really good interactive tool. What about Padlet? Anybody familiar with Padlet? Good. Jamboard, Mentimeter. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. So all of these tools, I think Kahoot might be maybe one of the most popular ones of the four that I have here. But when we think about like that gamification piece, definitely Kahoot. I don't know anybody who has played a Kahoot that didn't enjoy themselves. The competition aspect of it, all of those things really help to lend to that interactive piece, right? Students can really get involved and engaged. Um, Padlet allows for like that
Real
digital.
quickly, so Kevin said Google has discontinued Jamboard.
Did really? Since when? Recently?
Um, You just posted in the chat like a link to
Oh, well, yeah,
since
that must have.
October.
Well, sorry guys, you can't use Jamboard, but
So one of
definitely
the things I did want to add with Kahoot is even for not just for classrooms, but for corporate environments or team environments. My where I used to work, we had a meeting, a 15-minute meeting every Monday. And it was just for us just to get together and have fun. And one person always led kind of a game thing, and most of us used Kahoot. There was one person that did his own thing, but we used Kahoot to do a game, and it had nothing to do with work. But it was just a way to kind of relax, to get to know each other, to have fun together. So it doesn't even have to be educational. And it doesn't have to be in the education. It could be with your team or things like that.
exactly. That's a really good call out, Rhonda. It literally could be just to drive engagement. That engagement does not have to be associated with what you're learning. It's just that interactive piece, right? Just to get folks involved and collaborating. I absolutely love that. So these are just some examples of some interactive tools that can be utilized. Um, Another one is scenario based learning. This is a really good opportunity to provide students with scenarios, and they can kind of lend their experience, or maybe it could be, okay, just think about this and think about how you would approach this particular scenario. What would you do? You could really have fun with these and really do what would you do before you learn something, and then after you learn, whatever the content that you are expected to learn for that day, and then ask that question again to say, okay, what would you do now? Has anything changed? So those scenario-based learnings really give students an opportunity to kind of implore their critical thinking skills. Role plays in breakout rooms. I think students really enjoy having those breakout rooms, the opportunity to connect with each other. As we've already mentioned, there could be some challenges in regards to that if students are logged in on their phones. That may kind of present some obstacles, but definitely, being able to kind of have those different breakout rooms and have students lend, their perspectives, their insight, and then reporting back to the larger team, right? Um, what their thoughts are. So, offering those engagement opportunities really helps to kind of lend to students being excited and energized in their learning environment. So let's take a look at engagement through active learning. You may say, well, what exactly is active learning? Well, I'm glad you asked that question because I'm going to tell you. So, active learning empowers students to analyze, synthesize, and apply knowledge, dynamically fostering connections through real time engagement, right? So, this is active learning, meaning we're right here in the thick of it, we're learning at the same time. So, I have several different um, theories here that really involve active learning. We have think, pair, share. How many of you have either utilized or have heard of think, pair, share before? Yeah?
Yeah, it looks like people are saying yes.
So I'm spot on here. Good job. So yes, think, pair, share promotes active engagement really by encouraging students to reflect individually, right? So we want to tell them to, that's the think part, reflect individually, and then they want to partner and pair to talk about whatever they're working through. And then they want to share that with the larger team. So, this active learning concept just really helps to have that student, one, work independently with themselves, right? So they want to think about what they're learning. They want to pair that. Let's get with a buddy, compare our notes, make sure we're on the same page, or if not, if there's any differences, call those things out. And then kind of share and reflect their insights with the larger team. So that's a really good tool to use in the active learning process. And then we have case studies. I think case studies are probably, one of the most tried and true ways to incorporate some real world scenarios into our online classroom. Case studies allow students to kind of implore some of those critical thinking skills, right? Whenever they're going through something, they are looking at that case, they're doing an analysis, they're looking at various components that they may be going through, and then they're going to come up with a conclusion at the end of that study, right? And so being able to identify some of those key points and those things that they've learned along the way is extremely important. I know, theory and practice are two different things, right? In theory, we learn about something, but oftentimes when it gets to the practical application piece, it may look a little different than what we've learned in theory, right? And so having those case studies really helps to put that, practical application to the theory that they've learned to that point. So case studies is a really good way to have students actively learn and engage. And then our project based learning, giving students a project to work on, having them collaborate with their group. This also employs that critical thinking, collaboration, the communication piece, working with a team. So again, they are actively learning together, right? Putting those pieces together, working on that project as a cohesive team to ensure that whatever that outcome is, it's going to meet the standards of what's required. So all of these really lend to engagement through active learning. Okay, so when we go into monitoring and adapting, so you may say, well, I think this is all good, but how do we know if any of this is working? Like this is, it's really good to employ these strategies and to do all of these things, but you know, how do we know if what we're doing is effective? Well, we've got to monitor, right? We have to look at our LMS analytics. We have to monitor attendance, participation rates, all of these things we need to take in account, especially if you want to take a snapshot of what things are looking like before you employ any of these strategies. And then, after you do a pilot or a trial, then you want to go back and you want to reflect again, right? Surveys and feedback forms is a really good way. We've learned previously that students enjoy being able to share their opinions on things, and so we definitely want to take those things into account. And then we can look at course reports, right? We can look at engagement levels. We can look at the performance of those reports. We often call that course health, right? We want to look at the health of the course and how students are performing and identifying if those are, any potential areas of weakness, and maybe we can employ some of these additional strategies. So definitely monitoring and adapting is the name of the game, particularly when we're trying to, energize our students and be able to, have them engage at a higher level that they have been. So I am going to wrap us up here. Transforming disconnected to dynamic. Hopefully, we've been able to kind of share some strategies, some things that you guys can think about to transform things with the combination of technology, the various strategies that we spoke about, as well as heart. I wanted to put heart in here because as educators, administrators in this digital world, online environment, I definitely think, heart is a big piece of it. Having a passion for what we do, helping to ensure the success of our learners, our students. I mean, we can have all the tech, we can have all the strategies, but we really have to have a passion for what we do to help drive all of these things. So that is a really big component of that. Transforming our digital classroom into a community that fosters growth and development amongst our students. Definitely, that community should make our students feel welcome, and just have that be a place where they can continue to learn and grow. And then incorporating that real world relevance. Students love that, whenever we are able to connect them with that real world. They're a student, but we anticipate that they're going to go off into the real world themselves. And so we absolutely want to make sure that they are, prepared for that. And the more we can kind of put that real world relevance in front of them, they can identify with those things. They are going to be prepared for what they encounter whenever they get out into their respective industries, right? Frequent feedback and reflection. This can actually go both ways. From a student perspective, absolutely. We want to make sure that we are giving them frequent feedback. We are allowing them the opportunity to reflect on things so that they can kind of have that self reflection. They can continue to learn and grow. But from an educator perspective, we need that as well, right? So we need that frequent feedback. We need to ensure that, the strategies that we've employed, the things that we've implemented in our course room, is it effective? Do we need to adapt? Do we need to do something else? So we need that frequent feedback as well. And then the reflection piece is the same thing, right? We want to make sure that we're taking that time, that we are reflecting on ourselves to say, okay, what are some additional things that I need to do as an educator to help ensure that my students are learning and understanding, right? So hopefully today, you guys have come away with some good ideas on how you can, energize engagement in your online classrooms. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shanita. It was, part of it was like, okay, I am doing things right. Other things is like, okay, I can do better. I can do more. So a lot of people thanking you in the chat. If you want to stop sharing, and I will. So I definitely want to thank everyone for coming, and thank you, Shanita, that for such an energizing webinar. It was great. Went right along with your theme of energizing engagement, because you definitely did. It was wonderful. Want to remind everyone to find more on webinars for the bite-sized learning. You go to Learn. We are going to be updating our website, so it may change a little bit, but we will always be there. Want to definitely thank our partners. We have our premium partner of Anthology and our platinum partner of Digital Resources, along with our gold, silver, bronze partners. Couldn't do most of this without them, so we definitely thank them greatly for that. Want to remind everyone, on October 15th through the 17th is the Fall Leadership Workshop in South Padre Island. And our annual conference is March 23rd through the 26th and April 15th through the 14th through the 15th virtually, is the Riding the Wave of Innovation. Would love to see you there. Call for proposals will be out soon. Definitely, if you're not a member of TxDLA, would love for you to join us. It is only $50 for an entire year. You can go to TxDLA.org/membership. But if you actually come to the conference next year, it is part of the registration as well. But we want you to join us before then. So go to our website and see us. So you can go to our website at www.txdla.org. You can see us on